Welcome back to the Relaxing Ghost channel here on YouTube. Today we are going to be talking about the Women's Royal Rumble. Take some time, subscribe to the channel. So it was almost 2 weeks ago now that WWE announced the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match. Stephanie McMahon had to be the one to announce it, you know. I'm getting pretty tired of Stephanie, taking the spotlight when it comes to this women's revolution and all things like that. It's like she has to be front and center and, take the shine away from these young women. My thoughts on it are simple. I don't want it to be another 30 Rumble. 15 to 20 women is fine, but doing, two 30-man rumbles, 30 women, 30-man rumble, it's going to, really take away from the main Royal Rumble match. The Royal Rumble is special, and should the females have their own Royal Rumble? At this point, I would say yes. But, the Royal Rumble match itself is, usually an hour-long match. So you do two of those, that's 2 hours. That's half of your pay-per-view. Because the Royal Rumble now is 4 hours long. So that's half your show. So you do about half of that, 15 to 20. Have them enter, every minute, every 90 seconds. And, you try to do it a little bit quicker, a little bit shorter. I don't expect it to be a full 30 women Royal Rumble. The first male Royal Rumble, the first ever Royal Rumble, was only 20 men. So it wasn't until I think the next year they did 30. But the first men Royal Rumble was 20 guys. So I would say start at about 15. 20 is a good even number they could start with. And, you could fine tune it later. This is the first one, okay? We're gonna, test it out. But I definitely don't want to see two 30-men Royal Rumbles or whatever. A 30 women and a 30 men. Let's face it, WWE is mostly a male-dominated show. Wrestling in general is a male-dominated sport. You do obviously have your women's champions and your knockouts champions and things like that, but very rarely do the women main event shows. Very rarely do the women even they're very very rarely even given decent storylines. I know it's much harder with the women to give them storylines, so to say, with this PG environment, world being so politically correct. I do think they do put a kind of an asterisk next to the women and their storylines and things like this, because I've never seen WWE kind of take their women's division seriously until the past couple of years. So how would you guys book the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match? Would you do 15? Would you do 20? Would you do the full 30? I also wouldn't do the full 30 because I don't even know if they have 30 women on their roster right now. If they do, they are going to be using every single woman on the roster. And I don't want to see that. I want, the reason I pick 20 or 15, you pick a decent amount of women from Raw, from SmackDown. You might have one from NXT and one, legendary woman. Trish has been rumored to be in it. So, if you do 30, let's toss, a few from NXT. And straight away, you're throwing a red flag on that. You want this thing to be special. You don't want to just have, 3 or 4 spots just randomly filled up for NXT girls. And then what? They're randomly in the Rumble for what? It makes no sense. That spot should be earned. I definitely like to see that portrayed in the men's Rumble as well. A guy from NXT, wins a match or wins something, and he's in the Rumble match as well. I definitely want to see that incorporated in the future, but it can only be one spot because you're basing this on an NXT call up that will be used in the future. So if you put 3 women in there, that's 3 NXT call ups. I'm not saying it can't be done, but they just brought up the Riot Squad and Sonya and Mandy Rose, or the other one, Mandy Rose and Liv, and that's already 5 new women on the roster. Plus, you're gonna bring up 2 or 3 or 4 more in this Women's Royal Rumble. It's gonna be a disaster with all these new NXT call-ups heading into WrestleMania, and that's something you don't want to have. Is the thing I can't stand the most is come WrestleMania, you're doing these, 6-pack challenges for the women's title. I never liked that. The random Divas tag team matches at WrestleMania, never liked it. It just seems so randomly put together, last minute, and it really hurt the women's division for a number of years. And same with the legends. You don't want to throw in, 2 or 3 or 4 legends and, take away from future Rumbles. If this is going to be a recurring thing every year, you do want to have those legends available and have them be a fresh surprise. When you do it all the first year, that's all gone. You can't do it again. So it's going to be interesting to see who they call up from NXT, which legends they decide to use, and the overall number they decide to go with for this thing. So who wins it? Who wins the 2018 Women's Royal Rumble? That's going to be a tough one to decide. A lot of people are speculating Ronda Rousey. I don't like that idea. Give it to someone who deserves it. Someone that's been busting their butt for the past couple of years. A girl like Asuka definitely deserves it. Sasha Banks, Bayley, Nia Jax. There's definitely other women that, you can warrant some type of victory for, like Paige. Although I do think Paige and her gals will be going against the Riot Squad in some form or fashion in the near future. So who wins the Women's Royal Rumble? We'll see in the next couple weeks, building up to the Royal Rumble. We still got about 4 more weeks of TV until the Royal Rumble. I will be doing my predictions, guys, so stay tuned for that. These are just my initial thoughts on the announcement of the Royal Rumble for the women. I do think it's valid. It's a good time to do it, but I don't think it's needed to throw in all these NXT gals and women legends and things like that. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Comment down below. Take some time. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace.